fan, and time now for the C-Note Cowboys news of the evening. As we're just over 3 days away from the 2026 NFL Draft here on The Fan, and teaming up once again with DallasCowboys.com to give you the best draft coverage anywhere in the world on radio. You can find it right here on your home of the Cowboys starting Thursday night at 6. We'll be live at Pluckers in Plano. Love it if you can join us for our draft day show. And then, at one of the Pluckers locations across DFW, we'll be at all 9 of them here with fan hosts hosting the ultimate draft night party starting Thursday night shortly after 7 o'clock. Segments brought to you by the Frankels. If you've been injured in a car or truck wreck, call the Frankels first, 214 or 817-333-3333. There's never an out-of-pocket cost. They only get paid when you win. The Frankels are the go-to car and truck wreck attorneys in Dallas. Okay, we start here with the C-Note with Dak at the Children's Cancer Gala Friday night. Talked to football with reporters who were there to get Dak's thoughts and Troy Aikman's thoughts on everything. The headline making quote from Prescott was on Pickens. Quote, he's been active, looks great, leaving all those contract talks to the front office. Not only a reference to how things went wrong with Micah last year, but with what Dak and CD have recommended to their teammates after going through it before is just like, man, let your agent handle this. You don't want to get involved. But, could we be lucky enough to have this go smoothly with George just focusing on football? Showing up for training camp? I don't think he's going to show up for OTAs or the offseason. I don't really care about those. I just care about his mindset and his presence at training camp. And I think so far those things are going fairly smoothly, but you just can't take anything for granted considering who that agent is.
Yeah, man, I think it's very much so up in the air, and you're playing a bit of a dangerous game, and maybe inside those walls they will get a little bit more of an assurance about George Pickens showing up to training camp, but I wouldn't be betting on it.
No, I wouldn't be betting on it either. But I think George probably respects Dak and CD's advice quite a bit. Yeah. And if they're telling him, dude, if you relax, you're gonna get all the money. Like the agent's gonna take care of you. If you can just focus on football. Once you go into, I'm pissed off at the team because they're not giving me what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking to yourself every day about being disrespected. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of damn days. I just saw from Scott Hansen the other day, there's 150 days until the return of Red Zone.
It's awesome.
Do you want to wake up pissed off at the Jones boys for the next 150 days? Because once you engage and do a deep dive on what you're worth with your stats compared to what the market is saying and what they're giving you, you can think of the millions and millions of dollars that you're not getting, and it's going to be difficult. Jerry Jones at the press conference when they dealt Micah Parsons said everybody will flash when you start talking about their personal finances, right? And there's a look across their face of suddenly their emotions, they're in a fight now. You want to wake up in a fight every day, or do you want to enjoy football and let your agent handle it? Clearly, the best option for your happiness and your pocketbook and staying with the Cowboys is option B. And once you're in that mindset, leave me alone, Mulligetta.
Yeah.
I got practice to get to.
Yeah, call me crazy. I think he's going to show up because I just don't see the real gain for him in not showing up. The rest of the league's basically told you, we're not interested. They've had time to negotiate. They haven't wanted to. The Cowboys might be just totally content. They're like, just do it again. We want to see it again. We want to see how you are on and off the field, and we want to see the production again before we're willing to give you that deal. So if the rest of the league's still holding the narrative and some of the immaturity and some of the bad egg label that's been thrown upon you, are you going to add to that by now I'm not going to show up and now I'm not going to hold out? I don't know the real benefit in George Pickens' case that there is to hold out now after you've gone the entire offseason and the Cowboys basically said, hey, open for business. If somebody else really wants you, go ahead, make an offer. And nobody did. And then the league saying, yeah, you're not worth more than a second-round pick. You kind of know your market, and it's not as high as you want it. So go out, ball out again on a franchise tag, believe in yourself, bet on yourself like Dak did and got rewarded for it, and we'll circle back and do it again next year. I just, from the Micah standpoint here, it was a different thing, right? Like, Mike had done everything. You knew the Cowboys wanted to pay Micah, and if the Cowboys didn't, there was going to be a lot of suitors that did. Green Bay did. But for George, it doesn't sound like there are.
Yeah, it's difficult to get that kind of leverage. I think the only downside would be the risk of injury if I'm George.
That's fair.
But the point you bring up might be more powerful.
Yeah.
Like, you have a chance to flip the narrative.
Yeah, and I mean, how many times do you see guys get banged up when they skip training camp? You know, it's like you try to hold your leverage and then you show up for the season, and all of a sudden you're coming out of the gates a little bit slow. I do think everything you just said, Walchuk, makes a ton of sense.
Yes, sir, it does. Okay, at 877-881-1053, if you'd like to chime in on that, the Franklin Frankel Injury Attorney text line is open for you. We go to the Twitter account of Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Says, call me dumb when I'm wrong. I think the Cowboys' 2 first-rounders are going to come from this group right here. Mansour Delane, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Jordan Tyson, Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, Chris Johnson, TJ Parker, Keldrick Falk, and Malachi Lawrence. So that's, 9 different names in some different scenarios. The Jordan Tyson one is the only offensive player in there, the Arizona State wide receiver, posting clips of his workout.
They look good.
Man, it looks like his legs just operate differently than everybody else's, don't they?
He's got some Justin Jefferson to his releases. I mean, like, I'm nervous about his injury history because it's been a consistent issue in college. So why is that going to not be an issue in the pros? But if he's healthy, yeah, the dude is absolutely a top 10 type of pick. He's fantastic. I don't think the Cowboys are going to go that direction. I don't think he's going to be there at 12. But I love the Malachi Lawrence being on that. And Daniel Jeremiah throughout today, he's heard some buzz that the Cowboys could be a sneak. I think that's a trade back. I don't think they'd take him at 20. But the only name on there that would scare me is TJ Parker.
I think they'd take him at 20.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
What are the strengths of Malachi Lawrence? This is the edge from UCF.
Yeah, he's a tall, long, rangy type of guy. Gives you no hitting surface. He throws a lot of different counter moves at you. He's one of those guys that we always talk about, the one-trick pony. He's not one of these guys. He can get small when he has to. He can get up the field. He retraces really well. He never kind of goes past the quarterback and then has to, like, circle around. He always arrives at the area. He plays the run a lot better than you think he does. For somebody that's up the field, he knows how to get back. I think he's got a good feel for how to read blocks and then take advantage of what guys are trying to do. But he's always throwing some type of counter move. He's always got a plan with the way he rushes.
Really good athlete.
Very good athlete, yeah.
And so what's his weakness? It sounds like he should be in consideration for top 10.
I have an undrafted grade. He's a 7th round pick.
I give him a 179. Yeah. All right, thanks, Jim. But yeah, to me, this might be one of these guys through the draft process, and I know Zach has talked about him when we've done stuff, whether it's on the stack over there at Crown Global Media and stuff. He's talked about him. I know on our airways we probably have not talked about him nearly enough because we've talked about Messidor and people like that. I just don't think they're going to draft Messidor. I don't think they're going to draft Messidor. And I think the age is a concern to them. So with that being said, now where's the others? I mean, I think the arm length is a problem for our Texas A&M.
Because his arms are shorter than Baines for Cassius Howell.
Cassius Howell. I think that we were talking about Howell. We were talking about Messidor. We're talking about, I think, physically and age and all that. Now you're starting to slot our guy here into that 20 hole.
I'd be so pumped. And Coach Brim, who's on the staff, coached him at UCF. So he's got a sponsor in the building. Yeah. I'd love Malachi. 6'4", 247. You want an edge, that's your guy right there. I'd love that.
But what is he that he doesn't do? What is the thing where he could bust?
You know, I mean, I guess, like, you can probably find
he's not the heaviest guy.
At 247, he's light.
Yeah.
And he did play at UCF. I mean, he was in the Big 12. He was all Big 12 first team. But, I mean, you could knock him.
He's a taller version of what Bailey is. Bailey's like a 250-pound guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing that could get him in trouble, man, it's hard to say because there's so many things he does well as a pass rusher, but the run defense stuff is pretty solid. His run defense might be better than Bailey when it comes to the way he plays.
Yeah, I mean, he can improve the consistency. This could be one of these guys.
This could be one of these guys that should probably be selected somewhere between 12 and 18. And now he's, now people, maybe the media scouts have not gone on him like they should have, whereas the team scouts are kind of like, nah, man, you guys are missing out on this cat. His film is fun to watch.
6'4", 253 with a 4.5 40.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite an endorsement and a scouting report that you've given us on him. That would be exciting if the Cowboys can add him. Okay, Mel Kiper's favorite linebacker perfect fit for the Dallas Cowboys. This is Michigan's Jimmy Rolder, who Kiper dubbed his favorite linebacker prospect. Quote, he has versatility and the speed to close on the QB as a blitzer, but I have him graded as an off-ball linebacker, 6'3", 238. Rolder has the IQ, the diagnose skills, and the burst to drop in coverage, and he wraps up as a tackler. Kiper goes on to note that Rolder will be a steal in the early parts of day 3 where the Cowboys are picking 4th there at 112. You like Rolder?
I got to give Jonah Tolles a lot of credit for this guy. We had him on Love of the Star. I hadn't watched him yet, and he's like, man, Jimmy Rolder, I got a 3rd-round grade on him. He said, watch him against Michigan State. It's one of the best films that you'll see, and he was right. I mean, he led Michigan with 73 tackles. Now, he's a one-year starter, Gavin, so I know you brought that up with Arvell Reese.
He was a lot of special teams at Michigan.
He had to wait his turn to play. But Brian, I mean, he aggression, physical, his ability to take on blocks and shed is among some of the best linebacker tape you'll see in the class. I think he's got a little bit of everything to his game. Really well-rounded player. I think the coverage is actually pretty good for him too.
Yeah, it's 6'3", 238. You'd be hard pressed to watch like Washington, Ohio State, and Michigan, where he missed a tackle. I mean, he's one of these guys that is constantly, when he's in position, he's getting his guy to the ground. I think, to me, though, that when you watch this guy play, the thing that really is so impressive about him is how he's so efficient getting to the ball. I mean, there's not a lot of wasted movement or steps or anything with this guy. He's got really good awareness. He's got really good change of direction, and he finishes tackle. I mean, you do not see him like sitting back and waiting. Like he's a run and go. He goes and goes and gets the football.
Yeah, Steven.
I would be surprised. By the way, I know they were talking about it at 4. I think that somebody might take this guy in the 3rd.
I agree.
Yeah.
Stephen Jones last week with KNC talked about how much better of a chance a guy has of having a successful career the more years that he's been a starter. So I think that's worth having an eye on as we have this new coaching staff and we're trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for. But once you get to the end of day 2 or into day 3, I think projecting traits probably, but obviously in the first round, if you have a guy who stepped onto campus and immediately became a starter and never came off the field for 3 or 4 years, that's one that the Cowboys are going to bonus in their evals. We got Krusty's Corner coming up next. Brian, where are you taking it?
Yeah, there's some other things about this draft, what I'm hearing. We'll talk about those next.
Doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. Obviously very exciting with the draft 8 days away. Now, how realistic is the Cowboys-Browns trade rumor? Do you think that's going to happen?
Man, everyone's hearing it, it seems like. I think I saw 3 mock drafts came out today that all had that trade. So I think where there's smoke, there's usually fire. It was about this time last year we started to hear about the Browns maybe trading out of that number 2 pick and maybe the Jaguars trying to come up. And that ultimately did happen. And so I think you have to at least run through the scenarios of, okay, we've been talking about what these teams should do, what Dallas should do at 12 and 20. We've been talking about that for months. But, so now you shake it up and you run through that experiment of, okay, well, what if? What if they move to 6? What does that now look like for both Dallas and Cleveland?
Matt, what do you make of all these teams ahead of Dallas wanting to get out of that spot? It seems like everybody, Albert Breer was talking about that it seemed like there were 5-6 teams that were willing to move out of the top 10.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the talent at the top of this year's class. And it's not to be disparaging about any player in this class or to, dash anyone's hopes and dreams, but the top of this class doesn't compare with the top of last year's class. It certainly doesn't compare with the top of 2024. And so I think you do have a lot of teams that are sitting there looking at the grades on their board and saying, gosh, Carnell Tate, okay, if we're at 5 overall, where would he have ranked with last year's wide receiver class? Where would he have ranked with the year before that? And so I think the reason we're seeing teams be at least willing to trade out a little bit is that right there is teams looking at it saying, man, where would we have placed this player historically and saying maybe we can move down a little bit. I think also the money positions in this draft, offensive tackle, wide receiver, edge rusher, there's pretty good depth. So I think a lot of these teams look at it in a mindset of, hey, we could probably move back a little bit and still get a really good player. The issue is maybe, other than Dallas, I don't know if there's a team that has a heavy incentive to move up.
So do you feel like, though, that these teams will sell their picks cheap, or are you going to have to pay premium to get there?
I don't think you have to pay premium necessarily, but here's what's interesting. No one wants to give up 2027 draft picks. And so if you're the Cowboys and you call and you're trying to move up and Cleveland says, all right, we want 12 and next year's first. Hang up. There's no way. Like, you're not trading next year's first because it's such a talent-rich draft. And I think we've even seen, some teams like the Jets try to go ahead and load up on next year's first-round picks because of how good it's supposed to be. So I don't know that you're paying premium this year. Usually you're paying premium for quarterbacks, right? That's the only reason you're expected to pay a little bit above asking price. I don't think that'll be the case this year.
Matt, as you're projecting ahead and looking at that 27 class, did the Cowboys maybe make a mistake in having the 2-1s this year versus maybe giving up this year's one to the Jets to keep both ones for next year?
Yeah, you'd like to have 2-1s next year as opposed to this year, but I think you have to put every team in a vacuum and evaluate. The Cowboys genuinely feel like they're a Super Bowl contender. They feel like they have a Super Bowl offense. And so I think you look at the logic there and saying, okay, you want to strike while the iron's hot. If we can add a couple impact defenders this year, maybe we can make that run in 26, while you still have this offense that's put together, while guys are still playing at a super high rate. You've got Cooper Beebe on a rookie deal, Tyler Booker on a rookie deal, Terrence Steele's making $1 million a year. So you've got Tyler Guyton's on a rookie deal. It's like right now that offensive line's so cheap, you're able to pay two receivers a ton of money, right? You're able to pay Dak a ton of money. And then I think now you're looking at it as, okay, can we get those young impact guys on defense to where we can match what our offense has, basically?
So you put out a tweet that you did a quick round one mock on the What You're Hearing mock. Now, you don't spoil it for the entirety of the 32 teams, but can you spoil it a little bit for what you did for our Cowboys?
Honestly, it was hard. So I went, and I did this with the idea that Dallas does trade up, right? So, if everyone's hearing it, let's run with it. Let's see what happens. So I mocked this out with Dallas moving up to 6 to get Sonny Styles. Interestingly enough, I think there's enough smoke there, right, to where that would be the move. But if you have to give up 12 and 20 to do it, you're probably getting back 39. I think maybe that's not even really equal for Cleveland. They'd probably want a little bit more than that. But then at 39, I think if you're Dallas, you are looking for an edge rusher. You're hoping that someone like a TJ Parker is there or Cassius Howell from A&M is there. As this team moves to more of a 3-4 defense, you're going to need some speed on the edge. Howell would be pretty interesting to me. Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida would be pretty interesting to me. But, you're moving from 20 to 39 to try to find that edge rusher instead of sitting at 12 and 20.
It's Matt Miller here with you, ESPN Draft Guru. What are you hearing about C.J. Allen? He ran a 40 at a decent time, high 4.4s, I think. Is there any concern about his knee? Is it all performance, or is there like a medical flag going into the draft on him?
I haven't heard a medical flag on him, and as you guys know, because Dallas does this better than anyone, I think, every team's going to have their own evaluation medically, right? They're going to look at things differently and say, hey, this guy's off our board. In fact, the year that Dallas took Jalen Smith, I think they're the only team in the NFL that had him on their board. So every team does things a little bit differently. I haven't heard any teams that have that medical flag on him, and I think him being able to get out and run is a pretty good sign. Times it sounds like high 4.4s, maybe some 4.50. That's a really good time for him. Hopefully it's not too late in the process for teams to, kind of evaluate that and see where it places him. But I would expect him to be a round 2 pick. That's it seems like Styles will be the only true linebacker in round 1, and then Allen and Anthony Hill, Josiah Trotter, Kyle Lewis, Jacob Rodriguez, those guys will be all round 2 players.
What are you thinking about the teams that are talking about all the positional value stuff? In this draft, you have to kind of throw that out the window when you're talking about downs and players like that when there's not the talent at the top of the board?
I think you have to throw it out a little bit. And I kind of sum it up this way. If you're going to take a non-premium position, it has to be a premium player. So if you're going to take a safety, an off-ball linebacker, a running back, you got to make sure that they have all-pro ability. And I think for the 3 guys that we're talking about this year, they are premium players. I think Jeremiah Love is one of the best running back prospects of the last 10 years. Caleb Downs is certainly one of the smartest, most instinctive, most versatile safeties in a long time. And then Sonny Styles, who has just incredible, height, weight, speed, and incredible production. This isn't like when Isaiah Simmons was coming out of Clemson and you're like, oh man, this guy's a great athlete. What are we going to do with him? Styles led the team in tackles in 2025. In 2024, he had 6 sacks while playing linebacker. So, his ability is very, very well documented. So I think it goes to that. If you're going to look at the money positions, left tackle, defensive end, wide receiver, and say, gosh, we don't love the left tackles in this class, maybe we do go with a non-premium position. You got to make sure that's a blue chip player.
Are you looking at? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Wolchuk.
Reuben Bain Jr. Seems to be a pretty polarizing player, Matt. Is he a guy that you could see really taking a big fall if this arm length thing is a big deal to teams?
Yeah, and I jumped on this in January. It was like, gosh, I loved the college football tape, but the more you talk to teams, they were like, I had one general manager tell me, we will let someone else be smarter than us, meaning you have 30 years of data that says sub 31-inch arms doesn't work in the NFL. A player in the last 30 years with sub 31-inch arms has not had a 10-plus sack season, right? And Bain is going to break the record. He'll have the shortest arms for a pass rusher drafted in the first round since 1999 at least. So he's already going to break that record. So are you going to bet that he's going to break, 30 years of data that says not to draft these, or that these guys drafted in round 1 aren't going to have the production, or drafted anywhere aren't going to have production with sub 31-inch arms? So I love Reuben Bain's tape. I mean, I think you can make the argument he was the best player in college football down the stretch last year. But I think you would be arrogant to ignore data, right? That's why we have it. And your job is to try to marry film with analytics. And I think you can look at the film and say, are there times the short arms pop up? Yep, it does. It shows up at times. Thankfully, he has great leverage. He has great strength. He has, a good lower body base and able to drive guys, and he can lock out on the edge. But if you're drafting him expecting a 12-sack guy, that's just not who he is. That's not. The data says he's not going to be that in the NFL.
It's Matt Miller, ESPN, with you here on The Fan. How do you look at this running back class after Javonte Williams? The Cowboys don't have a lot of proven production in that running back room. If they wanted to do something in the 4th or 5th round, who would be the players that you'd like there?
Yeah, this running back class is weak at the top. I mean, Love's going to go very early. His teammate, Jadarius Price, is going to go fairly early. Maybe even, I know Kuiper had him going 32 overall today to Seattle. I think Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas is probably the next guy off the board and likely goes somewhere in that late 2, early 3 range. Round 3 guys, this is where the drop-off happens. Maybe Jonah Coleman from Washington, Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, who didn't have a great 40 time, but he's still elusive. Nick Singleton from Penn State. But these are role players, right? These aren't lead characters. These are bit part guys. And so if you wanted to piece together a backfield, I think you could add one of those guys. I would throw Katron Allen from Penn State in there as well. You could add one of those guys to be a role player, but I don't think the expectation is that any of them has the total package to become a number 1 back.
Well, thank you, Matt. Terrific work. As always, enjoy the draft, and we'll look forward to chatting with you next time.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Salute. Matt Miller, ESPN, here with you on The Fan. Our path to the draft brought to you by Pluckers. Join us at all Pluckers locations April 23rd for our annual draft party. We have the top priority for the Cowboys defense at the draft coming up. Stephen Jones talked about that. Football's finest coming up here at the top of the hour, and we're back with you here on The Fan. Thank you very much, Lucius. It is the G-Bag Nation here on 105.3 The Fan. The draft next Thursday. Our path to the draft coverage brought to you by Pluckers. Join us at all Pluckers locations April 23rd for our annual draft party. The Beast is out on the Athletic, Dane Brugler's annual NFL draft preview, and Dane joins us now here to talk about all the angles. Good afternoon, Dane. How the heck are you?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How we doing?
Doing wonderful. Enjoying all your content. Perusing the Beast. Got to start with, maybe the biggest Cowboys storyline or rumor going into the draft. How sure are you that the Cowboys and Browns have a trade that'll get done next Thursday night?
I wouldn't put it at any type of confidence level. It's more about understanding that the Cowboys are in position to be aggressive, and we know the Browns are always willing to move. And so, obviously the Cowboys aren't going to tell me what they're going to do. But when you talk to other people around the league, they feel like the Cowboys are in a position to maybe go get the guy if they have their eye on somebody, whether that's Sonny Styles, one of these pass rushers, Caleb Downs. They have the ammo to do it, and I think there's a good chance we see at least one trade in the top 10, and the Cowboys are kind of that team that other teams feel like could make the most sense to go and make it happen.
So if you're trying to go up to 6, how good of an idea do you have of what the top 5 picks are going to be right now?
I wouldn't say that like we have a high confidence level, and just a week out, obviously we know that the quarterback will be 1, and then at 2 is going to be an edge rusher, and then the Cardinals at 3 become a little bit of a conversation. Do they go the right tackle, or do they go with the edge rusher that doesn't go at number 2? And let's just say it's the edge rusher, then all of a sudden 4 and 5 become pivot points in the top 10, with Tennessee at 4, Giants at 5. You think about the Titans and Robert Saleh, and he had Fred Warner in San Francisco. Does that mean that he would lean towards a guy like Sonny Styles, and what that could mean for that Titans defense? Would they go with Ruben Bain there? We know they want a full stable of pass rushers. Or would they go with the most explosive offensive weapon in the draft, with that being Jeremiah Love? And so then with the Giants, John Harbaugh, this is a John Harbaugh pick. But John Harbaugh, he's not an offensive guy. He's not a defensive guy. He's a CEO type of head coach. And over his time in Baltimore, they were all over the place in terms of where they went in the first round. They drafted a safety 3 times in the first round over his tenure in Baltimore. So I don't think there's anything that we can point to say, yeah, they're definitely going to go offensive line here, definitely going to go with Love if he's there, definitely going to go with Styles or Downs. Those picks 4 and 5 really are a little unpredictable at this point.
When you're going through your mock scenarios, how much does what the Giants do at 5, depending on if they take Downs or Styles, impact in your thinking what the Cowboys would do moving up to 6? Is it we'll take whichever of those players they don't, or is it specifically a Sonny Styles thing for them to move up?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because obviously I think they would feel good about either of those guys, but it's a lot to move up. If we're talking about giving up that they are both first-round picks, and obviously getting back that second is a big part of it. They don't currently have that second-round pick, so getting back into the second round, the player you draft at 20, probably the grade's not all that different than who you're going to get at 39, and so that's a key part of it. But you're still, it's an aggressive move. So do they have a similar grade on Styles as they do Downs? Potentially. I think if one of those pass rushers were to get there, I think that also changes the math, because I think that's something that they'd also be interested in. So I think there are several players on the board that they could be aggressive, and maybe it's not the Browns. Maybe they move up, with the Chiefs at 9, or if Styles has gone at 4, say to the Titans, maybe instead of making that move up to 6, maybe they make more of a short move up to 9 with the Chiefs, where they look to get whether that's Bain or whether that's Caleb Downs, and so maybe it changes the trade and how aggressive they're willing to be. But that's something obviously we're still trying to figure out at this point.
Dane, who are teams having the most problems with right now getting a handle on, Bain or McCoy?
Yeah, both, right? I mean, I think if you're gonna have a list of the biggest wild cards in the first round, obviously Ty Simpson's in there. Just when that quarterback 2 come off the board, is he still around by the time Friday starts in round 2? I think Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama, is on that list. Keldrick Falk, the Auburn defensive lineman. But then also the 2 guys you mentioned, I think, are on there as well. And with Jermon McCoy, it just comes down to each team's appetite for risk, right? In terms of that knee, and not having the 2025 tape is obviously not ideal, but you love the 2024 tape. So we feel good about that. But if we're worried at all about long-term and that knee, that's the type of thing that throws a wrench into everything. And, for some teams, you won't be on the board. For other teams, they might be willing to take that risk at a certain point in the first round. But I don't think it's going to be Dallas. I know that's been widely reported, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Dane Brugler with us here on 105 through the fan. Bane in the arm length for you when you talk with teams. For us, we just see a great player, right? You know, an untrained eye here. I'm like, man, I'm watching Ruben Bane Jr. He's a phenomenal player. Why wouldn't you take him? But what makes the arm length so important to these teams?
Yeah, and I think that functionally, there's obviously the longer you are, the easier it is for you to take on contact, shed, and just initiate the action. But I think more so than that is just the fact that in the last 25 years, since the change of the century, there hasn't been a single edge rusher drafted in the first round with under 31-inch arms. And so you think about the teams that are they're out on a running back in the top 10, they won't do it, or a safety. You know, they're not going to draft a safety that high. There are some teams that look at the historical outlier stuff and say, look, we're not going to be the team that drafts an historical outlier in the top 10. We like the tape. We think he's a good player, but we're not going to be that team. And from that perspective, I understand it, but I'm more in the camp of, you know, what you're saying. The tape shows a good player. I think he wasn't as consistently dominant throughout the season, the regular season. You know, he only had 4 sacks during the regular season, but once the playoffs, you just watch those games and you're in. His ability to deconstruct blocks, especially in the run game, his ability to put pressure on the quarterback, that's something that is he's going to go top 12 in the draft. It's just a matter of, you know, where is that going to be? I think the Chiefs are in on him. The Bengals at 10, I think, would certainly take a long look, and then the Cowboys at 12 would be interesting.
Dane, when you think about the Cowboys' nickel position and Christian Parker and this hybrid stuff, are you thinking more of like a safety who can cover well, or a true nickel corner who maybe can be physical and play in the run and do some of those things?
Yeah, I think you keep an open mind to you know, who's going to be there for you. If they get wiped out with those top options, is Dylan Thieneman somebody, you know, if they don't trade at 12 and they stay put, Dylan Thieneman, is that somebody that would interest them because of that versatility? And, you know, he could be a nickel for you. He could play single high in certain looks. Because, you know, it's all about matchups. That's what the NFL is. Today's NFL is personnel matchups and being able to – the offense is going to show you one thing. Being able to adjust with the personnel you have on the field, and a guy like Dylan Thieneman, he gives you that because he has the versatility. One snap he can be one thing, and the next snap he can be another. And not only do you have to have the athletic ability, but also the mental capacity to have that type of role. And I think teams believe he can do that. So now in my 7-round mock that came out today on The Athletic, in that trade that I had them in the second round at 39 going trading Stukes, and he's more of that nickel who, you know, you throw in the Arizona tape, and that's what he did. Now he has experience at outside corner, he has experience at safety, so you like that about him. But the fact that you can see him be a nickel has to give you some confidence that yeah, this is going to be someone that's going to translate pretty well to the next level. So trading Stukes, coaches have been blown away by this guy. Same thing with Caleb Downs, and just his ability to, you know, talk, schematically, just understand what the concepts are. And so I think that's going to help him be a top 40 pick in this draft. Just a matter of can he sneak into the late first round? Will he be picked 35? I think he's going to go somewhere pretty early.
I think it'd be an awesome haul to be able to get Styles and Stukes. You did break my draft heart with, in the division, Downs and Jacob Rodriguez going to the Giants in your mock. If the Cowboys did not go with Sonny Styles in round 1, let's say Tennessee does take him at 4, and they're left now still looking for a linebacker, what other options do you think they have?
Well, C.J. Allen, for the Georgia linebacker, he ran today. It's kind of an interesting thing. There was one scout there, and so that one scout kind of, you know, shared the numbers, but it was the numbers were between like a 4.44 and a 4.52, and so I think teams are going with 4.47 for CJ, and that's a good number for him. That's, you know, the hearing from teams, they think he has an outside shot of getting into the first round. So, you know, think about this linebacker. Is a linebacker 2 going to go in the first round? Could it be Jacob Rodriguez? Could it be C.J. Allen? And there's a chance one of those 2 could get in there. Could they go as high as 20? I think that'd be a little surprising. But at the same time, like we said before, the grade you have on the player at 20 isn't all that different than who you have at 40. And so I think there's room for some volatility in those final 12 picks of the first round, just because I don't think teams are going to be worried about the quote-unquote reach at that point, because grades are going to be so similar.
Yeah, we're wrapping up with Dane Brugler here on the Fan. Sorry,
yeah, no problem. The times I did have on Allen, I hit 233 pounds, Dane, 162 in the 10, 271 in the 20, and 447, as you said, in the 40. They had some other times of a 450 and a 449 were the other times that they had on Allen as well. Dane, who's the biggest reach going to be in the first round of this draft?
It might be Ty Simpson. Do we get an Aaron Rodgers decision before next Thursday night? If we do, and maybe if he is done, do the Steelers, does Ty Simpson become more of a discussion point for them at 21? I think that's certainly on the table. But like I said, because the grades are going to be so similar in the back half of round one, I do think we could see a surprise at that point. And whether that's like Peter Woods, for example, the defensive tackle from Clemson, who, if you grade to the flashes, I get it. Yeah. But at the same time, the body of work just does not say first round. But this is also a light defensive tackle class, and it'd be pretty surprising if we went the entire first round without a defensive tackle. So does the Bears at 25 or one of these teams in the back half of round one need a tackle that badly that they reach a little bit to get that first tackle? And is it Peter Woods? That'd be interesting.
Dane, is the one position group, at least initially, that people don't have a great handle on is wide receiver? Are you finding that everybody's board is a little bit different on first-round grades on wide receivers?
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily that not having a handle. It's more just, I learned this from you, Broad. It's ice cream flavors, right? Yeah. It's just all these guys offer something a little bit different. If you want more of the outside receiver, then maybe you're not going to lean towards Mekhi Lemon. Or how do you feel about the durability with Jordan Tyson? Mm-hmm. Denzel Boston, is he an X or is he a big slot? Like, just every team has a little bit of a different opinion about how these receivers project at the next level. But these guys are going to go, and it's partly because of the contracts being heated out right now at wide receiver. Obviously, the Cowboys got two of them earning a lot of money. Alec Pierce, no disrespect to him, go get as much as you can. But the idea of a rookie on that rookie receiver on a rookie deal looks awfully appealing to a lot of teams, and so that's why these guys are going to get snatched up quickly.
Dane Brugler here with you on the Fan. By the way, a fun thought in Pittsburgh is that maybe Aaron Rodgers would announce his return at the draft. Like, hey, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm coming back, and here's the 21st pick in the NFL draft with the Steelers and everything. Just something to look for. But Dane,
even better if he announced Ty Simpson too.
Awesome! Wow, that would be something. Hey, what is Keldrick Falk's most likely role as a player? I'm trying to get prepared for the possibility the Cowboys take him. How much do you think he would help the Cowboys need to get pressure off the edge?
Yeah, look, you're dealing with a guy that's 6'6", 275 pounds, almost 35-inch arms, 21 years old, and what he was asked to do at Auburn, where playing in a three-man front, a lot of 4-eye, 5 technique, wasn't asked to just scream off the edge, and so I think that explains why the backfield production wasn't greater. But I think you have somebody that's just kind of scratching the surface of what he can be. Now, he's not the most twitchy. He's not a super bendy guy either, but he wins with his hands. He's an instinctive player, especially in the run game. So I don't know that he's ever going to be a double-digit sack guy, but I think he's going to be someone that you can win with, somebody that is going to make your defensive line better, and first the pass and the run, and somebody that ends up being a positive for anybody's defensive line.
The Ultimate Draft Preview, The Beast, is up on The Athletic from Dane Brugler. Anything else you want to say about that before we let you go, Dane?
No, I've been doing this a long time, and we try to set the bar higher every year, and I think hopefully we did that this year, and so it's been fun to hear all the feedback, and the digital version on The Athletic is really cool, and smart people behind the scenes dressed it up, turned my PDF into this, get all the artwork and navigation, so appreciate everybody checking it out.
It looks great.
I missed the PDF, Dane. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro.
It's on there too. I made sure the PDF download is available. So if you want it that way, it's still there.
I remember when you and I were selling that thing out of a trunk for $7 a shot, bro. Keep it rolling, man. Keep it rolling.
You're the best, man. Thank you so much.
Cheers. There he goes, Dane Brugler from The Athletic at DP Brugler on Twitter. We got a mix back coming up, old Chuck. Let's do it. We got a Stars update for you. My Cowboys draft predictions a little over a week out, and selling your house for a sports stream. That's next to the nation.
Brian Bros for the great surprise call-in 1 hour ago. Takeaways from that? Sounded like he said they would take Styles in the scenario you gave him.
Yes.
Now, you didn't throw Bain into it, but you said if Downs,
I think
Delane.
Yeah, it was Downs, Delane, and Styles. And the reason I didn't throw Bain into it is because I think Bain is clearly 4. Of those 3, I don't think they would. If they had that setup where those guys had fallen to them, I think they take any of those 3 above Bain.
How much are we making of the Ruben Bain accident report that came out yesterday, involved in a fatal collision in 2024? It sounds like the family has moved on. Things got settled. There were some whispers 2 weeks ago that they were waiting for him to be drafted and then the lawsuit would hit. But by all accounts, in reading this, it sounds like things have been settled and everyone is trying to move forward. I love all these insiders. Oh, you guys are acting like this is new. Teams have known about this. All right, well, you didn't say nothing, so shut up. This guy broke it from the read optional. All you national people, just sit there and give the credit and keep your mouth shut and stop taking away from the report. He had the balls to say it. You didn't. He went and got the records, and everyone's like, oh, this is old news. Well, you didn't say nothing, and no one knew about it.
Well, and I would say it's only old news in the sense of if people think yesterday all of a sudden has teams scrambling. It's news to the public consuming it, and so it's good reporting and everything else like that. But in terms of like I had some people yesterday going well, after today teams will be out, or after today he's going to fall. It's well, if you've heard that teams like him in the first round in the last couple weeks, they knew about this, and so they still liked him knowing this. And so I think it's important for people to at least understand that anything you've heard buzz-wise about your team maybe being interested in Bain is probably the same today as it would have been 2 days ago, because they were factoring this in.
Yeah, it sounds like, I'll try to separate things. Someone did lose their life. Let's keep that in mind. There's going to be a Laramie Tunsil comparison. There's going to be a Jalen Carter comparison. He was involved in a fatal crash months before the draft. He did drop to number 9 on the board. We know Jalen Carter is a beast. There's some teams that are not thrilled with the way he's answering it. So I think that's actually the bigger deal, because it sounds like all the legal stuff is put to bed. Mm-hmm. And the family is not out for blood and trying to, get him when he's on the clock and on the board. So, number 1, is he careless about it? Was he honest about it? And then number 2, is this guy a driver from Georgia? Is this going to be this going to be a consistent issue with him out there on the road? That's what I'd be thinking about if I was a team interviewing him.
Do you take in anything differently, or do you put it in different contexts now, knowing what you know? Do you put it in different context, thinking back of him at Combine, where he's like, I'm all football, guys. I don't do anything. I don't even go out because I'm so focused on football. I think the undertones there, when you look back on this, is probably also a public declaration to teams of guys, just so you know, the only thing I care about is football. I'm not a reckless individual who's out partying all the time, and this was a bad instance. And I think he wants people to understand that. But yeah, you got to be careful too, if you're talking about it those ways, or you're trying so hard to basically make people think, hey, this isn't me. You got to be very careful about being dismissive of it when you talk to teams, and I think that's what he would run the risk of.
I mean, the hope is that this is one of those